We are living in a world that is constantly changing. We wake up each morning to the sound of outcries filling the skies. War, pain, corruption, misunderstandings, broken relationships, child abuse, divorce, broken families, job struggles, sex trafficking, drug addictions, disease and death. Yet through all these obstacles, people still find a reason to wake up in the morning and live another day with hope for a better day than yesterday.
Hello everyone, welcome to another session of Love in Motion podcast. My name is Zinhle Maphalala. Thank you for joining us. Today is a follow-up session from the last one that we had, where we spoke about early childhood disabilities and the identification thereof. There are other issues that emanate from those disabilities. So today we have our speech therapist, Ms. Zinhle Maphalala.
Hi everybody.
Yes, thank you, Zinhle. Who will be telling us more about speech and language disorders that we find coming from what we spoke about the last time. Welcome, Zinhle.
Thank you very much for having me, Mulimo. Like you said, I'm Zinhle Maphalala. I'm a speech and language pathologist and have been for almost, I think, 15 years, if I'm not mistaken. And I have quite a special interest in working with the pediatric population, and I'm hoping that today we can share a bit of information that will be helpful to your viewers.
So, Zinhle, can you please kindly take us through the common speech and language disorders you get to see?
Okay. First of all, I think it's important to make the distinction between what we're talking about when we talk about speech versus language. So speech are the sounds that are put together for you to create a sound. So anything that is coming out of your lips, that's what we're talking about when we speak about speech. And then there's language. I'm not speaking about English, Maswati or Sizulu. Language actually refers to the ability for someone to understand what is being said to them or shown to them, or the ability for them to express what they are trying to say, whether by showing or also by speaking or by writing. So language always involves two people. There's going to be a messenger and a receiver. If I point at the bottle and you pick up the bottle and give it to me, that is a successful communication, which means that there always has to be two people involved for there to be a successful exchange in communication. But in terms of the speech disorders that we mostly see, those would involve a lot of so speech sound disorders. Some of the time you're going to find a mom comes with a child and they say, oh, my child can't say the sound L or the sound R. That is a speech sound disorder that can be caused by maybe there's some difficulty or something that is wrong with the features and the structures in the mouth that cause them to make that mistake.
Okay. So this is so interesting, because we would have thought when you say language, we are speaking about what we know as our native languages. Yes. This is so great. So we actually have different distinctions in the speech disorders.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And it's also important to note that a child, which is what the population we often see, sometimes may just only have a speech disorder or just a language disorder, and sometimes both of them can happen at the same time. To move on then to a different kind of speech disorder, I think a lot of people know about stuttering or stammering as they call it. And this can start as early as the age of 3, but really becomes more pronounced as the child progresses through school. And those are the issues that are coming along the way, and parents will come, my child doesn't have confidence anymore, they don't want to speak anymore, or they're really getting stuck, or they're being made fun of. And that's when we have a parent coming in to say, is there anything that you can do?
So it can actually affect also the confidence.
Absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes you'll find the child wants to speak less now, becomes a little bit more shy, and really just can regress in terms of being a confident and happy communicator. And so we address different things when we deal with that as well.
So true. So very true.
Yeah. And then we also have what we call childhood apraxia of speech. This one is a bit of a complicated one because it's talking about the plan. So if you are thinking about how does a car drive, You know, there's an engine that says, I'm just going to use a basic, the
Because
most
we all
basic
know
understanding.
True.
There's petrol, the petrol must go somewhere, and the
Yeah.
car must move.
Yes.
So when we talk about childhood apraxia of speech, we're really talking about that the connection between the petrol pump and the engine.
Okay.
Something is broken down, and the child really can't just make the sounds that they need to say. So they'll say cable instead of table, but they can say the sound.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's different from the first one where they can't say that sound specifically. But now the plan is mixed up, and sometimes he'll say it, and table comes out. Sometimes he'll say it, and cable comes out. So it's the inconsistency in those areas that is a problem with the planning for the production of speech.
Oh,
Yeah, and
that's
it's
very interesting.
It is quite, and it's one that, like I said, some of them occur on their own, but this is one of them that you can find in many other disorders that are occurring as well, which is some of what you spoke about. Children who have autism spectrum disorders or children with ADHD can also present with this kind of motor planning difficulty, which is part of something that we treat as well. And then to do with the muscles, we talk about a dysarthria. So this is like where you have a child who's got cerebral palsy, which is something we also touched on in your last presentation, and that affects the muscles. So if a child can't control the movement of the tongue, can't control the movement of the lips, sometimes it will affect some of the sounds that are coming out of their
Very
mouth
true,
as well.
because like Z is rightly putting it, cerebral palsy, if you remember from the last podcast, has to do with muscle and movement on the whole body. So we are dealing with speech today, they're talking about muscles around the mouth.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
And just as we're still on the cerebral palsy, it's not speech difficulty per se, but it does affect children who have that muscle issue, and they often experience something we call dysphagia. So that's a feeding and swallowing difficulty. Those muscles in the mouth that you use to chew and swallow are also affected, and then we help to treat those kinds of disorders as well. Yeah.
That is very informative, Z, and I'm sure it clears out a lot of things. So you spoke about speech and you spoke about language. What are the language disorders that you are most commonly come across?
Okay, so if you can remember, when I introduced, I said that language can be broken into two.
Yeah.
So what you understand and what you can express. So we're going to talk about a receptive language difficulty, which means a child can't take an instruction. That's what, I'm actually going to talk about it as what one can see at home or in the school or in the classroom. So a child really doesn't understand what's being said to them. Even if I call your name, you don't quite respond to it. If I ask you to take something and bring it to me, you're not able to do that. You have trouble following instructions in the classroom. So the teacher said, we're going to start at number 1 and work all the way to 5, but you kind of got stuck at 2 because you didn't really get the whole instruction. So that's also part of it. Not even understanding what an object or a picture is representing, and not understanding the use of specific things. So you give a child a spoon and all they do is bang it instead of, you know, using it for its function.
Yes,
trying to eat, and things like that. So those are the types of receptive language issues you're going to find. And then expression. So when I'm talking to you, I'm expressing myself now, and you're listening to me, which means that you're understanding what I'm saying. So we're putting it into practice as we speak. So if I have an expressive language difficulty, I can't ask for anything. And I think that one is really the most limiting, because we're living in a world where people need to make their needs known. And if I'm unable to do that, I'm going to have some difficulty functioning in the environment where I am.
Just on that one, Z, could it be the reason why most of our autistic children struggle with expressing themselves? Because I think that's what we commonly see, because they struggle with communication.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, we've tried to now talk about it as, if you're trying to express yourself, we need to stop saying that it can only be through words. True. You know, that they can express, but maybe through something else. So then you'll find the child maybe gesturing or pointing or taking you to the thing. So it's a method of expressing that just isn't using words.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key in trying to you know, encourage people that yes, we can work on expression, but maybe sometimes for a different child it will be in a different way. So an expressive language disorder is, like I said, I can't really describe to you things that I need help with, or I don't know how to name this is a bottle, but I know that I can drink. So that one will show you that they can understand the use of things, but they can't tell you what they're handling or what they're dealing with at that particular moment in time. Even something as simple as learning a rhyme. Everybody knows, happy and you know it. We do it all the time, every day in preschool. And then when you see that this is not happening with your child, this is something that we now maybe can get concerned about, because that repetitive thing that we are not able to reproduce, that's when we start to get concerned.
In the last podcast, we did mention general developmental delay.
Yeah.
So that is something that actually comes and emanates from that, where we are saying there is no disability tied to the difficulty that this child is experiencing. We actually brought up to the learning difficulties as well, and special needs for that particular reason in the previous podcast. So just to wrap it up, Z, for us.
I would say the most important thing is to keep yourself informed. So if you can see that, my child is a little bit behind on this, they should be doing this by now, or they should be trying to say this by now, it's better to ask before it's too late. And I mean, it's never too late. We can always try to do something. But if you have a concern, or if you have a question in the back of your mind, usually it means you need to ask a question. And there are people now who are available to you to try and get that information and learn a bit more about what you can do. But where we talk about speech and language, the most critical time is really between 6 months and 18 months. Those are the times when things are supposed to happen. And if nothing is happening, please seek help as soon as you can.
Thank you so much, Z,
Thank you
for joining us and for the informative talk that you've just given us. I'm sure our viewers at home are finding this quite helpful and quite informative and enlightening as well. So Z, I would invite you to, as we close, to please invite our viewers at home to subscribe, share, like our channels, comment, so that we can grow further. And kindly also let us know, where can we find Z if a viewer at home is trying to locate you as a speech therapist for their child and the concern?
We'd really like to encourage you to like, follow, subscribe, and comment on this podcast so that we can get the information out there for the people that need it. And as for where I'm located, I work at the New Mall in Babane. My office is shop number 7, and